we don't know what anybody's going through. A lot of times they see glory, but they don't know the story. Behind everybody's success or failure is a story that you know nothing about. And in my head, I always say that's somebody's son, that's somebody's daughter, that's somebody's love, that's somebody's friend. Like, you don't know what people go through. People beyond what they see of me, of this part, that's a part they didn't know. And I remember when I went into the Hall of Fame, I remember telling Casey Kasem's daughter, who inducted me in the Hall of Fame along with her dad, that all I had to hold on to that made me feel like I was going to be somebody was her dad. I didn't know that at first. I didn't know. But I realized how important that was to me. So for all of the people out here who struggle with mental health or not sure where their direction or purpose is, direct yourself to believing that you can overcome anything and that you'll make it, but you got to believe you deserve it, that your struggle will eventually become your strength. And sometimes our struggles is the one thing that people in the world will fall in love with, because nobody ever wants to hear the man or the person who has everything. People want to hear about the person who's endured some sense of pain, just like all of us, and turn their struggles into a gift, you know. Yeah. And I had to learn that legends, when somebody called me a legend a few weeks ago, and I was like, no. But whatever I am, whatever we are all what we are based on the valley, you know, of our struggles. So I say to everybody out there, please, if you are in need of any kind of help of any sort, say something. Say something so people can help you. I needed help. Didn't say anything. Quiet battle. But I overcame.
Nobody has to suffer alone.
Nobody does.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Apologize.
No,
No,
what are you
please.
apologizing for?
That was wonderful.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay.
Thank you for sharing that. I didn't congratulate you on beating colon cancer as well. I know that's a very fatal disease, right?
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. That really touched my heart. Hopefully yours too, but you know.
And a lot of times people see the Hollywood part, but I'm like everybody else. I'm no different. We all have our struggles and our pain, and it's so important of being able to give. What's my legacy? What am I going to do to be a good man? I can do that, and I can look back and hopefully help somebody else to make their dreams come true too. That's how I look at it.
Beautiful.
Love it.
Welcome to the chaos.
If you try to start out as perfect, you're never gonna reach it, and you're always gonna be second guessing
you'll
yourself.
always aspire. Maybe I'm supposed to do this. Maybe I'll do that. It was one of the biggest changes for me. Was one day a guy said, "Tyrone, what do you do?" And I said, "I do radio, I do television, I do voiceovers." But then he said, "But what do you do?" And I was real quiet, and I didn't want to say the same thing again. And he said, "You don't know what you want."
Oh.
The next time somebody asks you that question, you better have an answer. And I'm telling you, I couldn't sleep for days because I knew he was right.
So when he asked you again, what was the answer?
I'm an R&B historian.
Yes.
Period. And I had to learn the difference of what makes you better or what makes you different. And when you're better comes with expectations. Nobody ever does anything with you or for you because you're better. It's something different about you. And I had to learn that for television. I had to learn that for voiceovers. I had to learn it for everything in which I've done.
So to get that, the R&B historian, when was it that you finally figured out, okay, this is what I want to be known for, this is what makes my soul happy, I feel in line with this when I give this answer.
One of the things that I do the television show Unsung, and it's based on the history of R&B artists from, the past. You see the glory of what they do, but you don't know a lot of the story. And so I was mentored by Casey Kasem, the guy from American Top 40. And so I remember saying, when I watched everybody on television doing the same thing in which I did, I kept saying, I don't want to say I'm a music historian just because I'm on a musical show. Right. I'm on an R&B show. I need to say that I'm something different. So I said, I'm an R&B historian. So that wanted to separate me. It didn't make me better. It didn't mean I didn't know the history of all the other music. I just needed to be someone who was different, who stood out to some degree.
Absolutely. You have to find like your niche. And is R&B something that spoke to you throughout your years? Because I know I heard something that you said you used to love pop music at first, right?
Yeah, originally I used to listen to Casey Kasem's American Top 40.
I mean, who didn't?
And,
that was great.
And I wanted to be this man so bad. And every Saturday in Cincinnati when I was a kid, I would listen to him every Saturday and Sunday on the radio. Mm-hmm. And I said, one day I'm gonna be just like this guy. And I would be riveted to his stories, but I knew the pop charts because that's what he did.
Right.
And, years later, I move out here to Los Angeles, and I meet this guy. And so I said, I remember, like, oh, my God, that's him.
Yeah.
And he had this sweater on, and it said radio on it. And I remember, like, going into the bathroom. I barely had enough money to get there to this place, but I knew he was going to be there. So I fixed myself up, and I said, Mr. Kasem? And he said, call me Casey. And I remember saying, I'm calling this man Casey. No, first name basis.
Right.
And he was nice to me. I was telling him about my aspirations of what I wanted to do. And he said, Tyrone, and he gave me some advice. I wasn't quite sure what it was, but he walked away. But I said, one day I'm going to be just like you, Mr. Kasem. And he said, I'll see you at the top, sir. And I was like, I felt like, oh, my God, like I met my dream idol.
Right.
So this guy walks over to me and he says, send it to him. He'll look at it. So I sent it to him. He calls me, and his voice was unmistakable.
Yes.
And he said, is this Tyrone? And I go, yes, sir. He goes, he said, this is Casey Kasem. Just what he says. He said, did I tell you to send me that stuff? And I said, oh, my God, now I made this guy mad. I said, Mr. Kasem, sir, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean any harm. You were my idol, and I just was just so glad to meet you. I just wanted you to hear it. And he said, now I got to show you how to do it right. He said, come over to my house.
Wow.
And I went, I had this raggedy car, and I kept saying, I gotta clean this thing up. I got some armor all on my little ball tires, Mike. I was like, I just wanted to make it look clean.
Yes.
I came to his house, and he taught me a few things. He taught me about cadence and how to he told me stories about, different people and different things. But the biggest thing he taught me was, he said to me, young man, you need to learn R&B. And I said, Mr. Kasem, I don't know R&B that well. And every time I said Mr. Kasem, what was the word?
Call me Casey.
Call me Casey. I'm calling this man Casey. Like, that ain't happening. So he says, you need to learn, kid. He said, because R&B music is fading.
Oh.
That's what he was saying. And to some degree, it was absolutely true. Because you don't see the R&B groups that you saw in the past.
No.
And it was so important for me to figure something out. The truth is, at some point, I really wasn't sure what I was supposed to be. I was desperately trying to find it. Mm-hmm. And I went to his house one day, and he gave me this $500 Barnes & Noble card. And he said, buy these books. I was like, okay. So I buy these books, and it was huge for me. One, because he gave it to me.
Yes.
And two, he told me what books to get. Once I got those books, then I started studying the history of R&B, where there was so much that I didn't know. And, for example, I didn't realize that music, particularly from African Americans, came from slaves who were singing when they were on the plantation, and their masters told them, forbid them to do it because they thought they were singing or humming ways to escape.
Wow.
So I had to learn the history of R&B before I could tell it. And as time went on, things got bigger for me, being used in national television shows, on being seen on national places. But at some point, it intrigued me then, and one of the people who helped me a lot was Cheryl Underwood. She was a radio host then at the time, and she allowed me to perfect my craft. Somebody has to give you a chance.
Of course.
And I'm big on that.
Yeah. I had a question about when you were doing your history, the blues was born from the slave music at the time, right? And did that morph into R&B later?
It morphed into R&B to some degree, but the truth is that R&B almost came practically from New Orleans, where, the jazz and the Creole music all came together. That's where, and then it morphed out from there. It actually started in churches, where gospel started.
Okay.
Because slaves went to church, and that's where gospel music began. Then it spread out. And then the rhythm and blues aspect came from different other people who were using harmonicas, banjos, different instruments that never existed at one time that somehow became a part of music.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
I'm from New Orleans too, so that I love blues. I love that
bluegrass.
Yeah, exactly.
All the roots.
You love that food.
I do. I miss it.
I know you do.
When I came out here, I was like, y'all know what seasoning is? What? I still can't find, I'll still go to restaurants. They're like, you got to go. It's like the top restaurant in L.A. And I'll eat. And I'm like, everybody's like, oh my God. I'm like,
you got to put some serious
where's the
seasoning.
Tony's at?
Right.
Tyrone, let me ask you this, though, because most people you're told don't meet your hero, right? Because a lot of people, you'll be let down, but you weren't. And how awesome is that? And what was that like, getting to meet him and then him taking an interest in you? Because I'm sure there's so many people, like actors and musicians, stuff like that, be like, I would love to have my favorite person in the world be like, I like you. Come work with me. It's like, wait, what? Hold on, what?
Having a mentor,
yeah, Mike. It was.
level,
I was on a high that you could never believe, because the truth of the matter is, what many people didn't know, at that particular time, I was driving 145 miles, had a regular daytime job, and then I would drive to Barstow on the weekends, every other weekend, and be on the air from midnight to 6, and I would get paid $40 every 2 weeks to learn how to be on the air. And I was, in the middle of a desert, right where the Barstow station is, and at the top of the Barstow station where the McDonald's is, there's a radio station there. And that's where I used to go every other weekend, work a regular full-time job, drive 3 hours, maybe 4 on a Friday, because the traffic in Vegas.
Yeah. People going to Vegas.
I would sleep under my car for maybe a couple of hours, because I knew I had to be on the air. Go in that little bathroom in there, change clothes, and then I'd be on the air from midnight to 6, and I got paid $40 every 2 weeks.
But that's so inspiring too, because coming from, you wanted it, right? And there's so many people out there who want it but don't want to put in the work. Like we were saying, everyone wants to be perfect right off the bat. Everybody wants to have it handed to them. That's actually showing people you have to put in the work. If you want it that bad, you will do whatever it takes to make that.
They're not willing to make that drive to Barstow, to work 12 to 6 in the morning, to do the work, to the stuff that people don't see. Working in the lab, basically.
Yeah,
right?
in my mind, one of the things that I've learned is that there's 1,440 minutes in a day. So in my head, how much time am I investing a day in my dream and my journey? Because we all, the 9 to 5 pays the bills. The 6 to 10 builds the empire. That's what I always say.
Yeah,
so I would come home, even now to this day, and organize myself and would write down everything that I needed to do, even if it was taking out the trash. But I organized myself to where it made me and forced me to stay focused on what it was in which I needed to do all the time. And once that helped me, even this morning, I got up, what's the first 5 things I need to do, set the timer for 10:30, there was different things in which I had to learn. Yeah. But I needed to learn how to discipline myself. Because the truth is, I think the hardest thing for me was nothing was going to change for me until I was real with myself. And I needed to learn a sense of being uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And it's the hardest thing for us to be, keeping it real with ourselves. That was hard.
But like, and then look where it took you to now, right? You're in the California Music Hall of Fame. You have a UV Lifetime Achievement Award, 4 Hollywood Black American prestigious awards, 3 Black American Hollywood awards. Like, you've been so recognized. You have a show, you have books. Like, so it just shows like when you put in that work, so many doors will open. Like, it's a slow build, slow grind, but then when it pops, it's like, it just doors open, and you got to experience such a cool. Like, you got to be proud of yourself.
The number one thing for me is humility.
Yeah.
There's sometimes I feel like I'm living somebody else's life. You don't recognize what everybody else sees. So I had to learn, stay humble, always pretend like this was unreal, and treat people good, and hope that somehow or another my dream would come true. Because like everybody, believe it or not, I have a 9-to-5 job, like just like everybody else. And for a long time, nobody knew what I was doing until one day they saw me on television. And then, you know what happens, once they look you up and it's all over, then they know. But humility played a major part in who I am today. So I've learned to just be kind to people, be loving, be giving, and help the next person get to where they need to be.
That's so awesome that you can still be humble and still help so many people. But listening to some of your interviews and some of the things you talked about on Unsung, you've talked about imposter syndrome and having self-worth issues, which me and Danny can tell you we all have the same, and I'm sure there's so many other people out there that feel the same way and are too afraid to talk about it. So like, how have you battled that and gone through it and picked yourself up and like, no, I've done all these things. I'm worthy. I'm great. I can do this.
I had to eventually learn to elevation required some separation for me. Meaning that there were people that are around me. I had to figure out who was in my corner and who was in my business. Who really wanted to see me win? Well, to be perfectly honest, in my head, I had to start thinking, Mike and Danny, that nobody was going to want this more than I did.
Absolutely.
It needed to mean more to me than it meant to everybody else. When I had cancer, and I remember after beating colon cancer, I remember the doctor saying, Tyrone, I don't want you eating any beef. And I said, well, why not? And he said, because I'm not sure if colon cancer is based upon either, genetics or beef. And in your case, I didn't know. He said, so I don't want you eating any beef for a while. And I don't know. I just thought he was just talking. I've had the same doctor for almost, over 30 years. And I'm still with him. And I remember I did my blood test and I came back, and Danny, he said, you ate some beef, didn't you? And I was real quiet. And he said, I know what you need. He said, go outside and look outside in the lobby. He said, go out there right now. So I went outside in the lobby, and I heard him yell, come back in here. And he said, sit down. He said, did you see the pregnant lady out there? And I said, yeah, I saw her. I saw her husband rubbing her stomach. He said, she didn't listen either. She's about to die. We're just trying to save her baby. And then he looked me straight in my face and he said, I'm not going to tell you again. Don't eat any more beef until I tell you that it's okay. Do you understand? And I was already like shaking up Danny because of what he said. And I said, okay. He said, out. When I got to the doorknob, he said, hey, if it means more to me than it means to you, you wasting my effing time. Get out. And I still have the same doctor.
I would too. I'm like, what's his name?
But I needed, sometimes we have to hear it from the right person. But I used that sentence to move me forward with everything in which I did. Because ultimately, in life, everything in which I did needed to mean more to me than it does to everybody else. So I'm not concerned anymore about what everyone else thinks. They don't want what I want, so they won't do what I do. So I had to learn to be different, not better, because being better came with a sense of an expectation. And so when people say, I picked this guy. I needed to tell people the reason why I was different. And that's how I made it this far. That's how I got here.
That's awesome, man.
It's so great, like the people that come into your life at the right time to show you, like, this is what you need to be doing. I had an accident in 2016, and I wasn't a person that, it was my accident that showed me. You know, because after my accident, I was completely alone. And, you know, I used to be a bartender. We used to work in nightclubs together, and I was always surrounded by people and friends. And I use this quotes big because all those people disappeared after my accident. And I learned that I had to start from zero, figure myself out, figure out who I was, because I didn't know who I was. I lost complete control of like who I was as a person. And then my accident was my teacher. Like, I thank my disability for like putting me where I'm at now.
You also learned, though, Danny, that you are not your diagnosis.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, and those people who are around you accept this. They don't see the rest of it.
Right.
It's not an inconvenience. They don't see anything different about you. But you changed because you were ready to connect the dots between your head and your heart.
Exactly.
That's what I had to do too.
And I'm so happy you said that, because people see it. They see a physical disability, and they think that's a hindrance in my life. And they're like, well, you know, you're gonna walk. And I'm like, no. Let me tell you something. Walking isn't the most important thing to me. I first had to get right here and here.
There you go.
And the rest followed.
Yes.
Because if I'm good here and I'm a good here, I'm just in the same boat that I was in before. So it took a lot. Like, you have to work on this and this, and that's what we talk a lot about, like the mental health and how important it is, because you can't proceed in life unless you're good here, right?
Sometimes God will isolate you and slow you down, or give you something to get you to a place to where you need to be.
Yeah.
And you don't see it right away, but as time goes on, I started connecting the dots. And the biggest thing I had to learn in life with the things in which I've done, particularly now, is learn to read the room. Because it's the most simplest thing, but the hardest thing for so many to do.
Yes.
So I've had to learn how to read the room with people. And when I started in as a publicist, I remember her saying, "Are you sure you ready for this?" And I went, "Yeah, I'm ready." And she said, "Okay." And for a while, I was going out to all these red carpets events, Mike and Danny, and I was going out, and everything was good. So one day I get on the red carpet. I was with her for about 3 months. And as you know, you see the red carpet part, but at the end of the red carpets are the interviews. So I get an interview with this lady, and she goes, "Tyrone, how you doing?" I went, "Oh, everything is great." And then she said, "What was it like not being a good dad?" And she stuck the microphone in my face. And I managed to stammer to say something. And then she said, "Oh, okay, thanks." And I walked off. And I remember going to the publicist. And I said to her, "Yo, she asked me about my personal life. She was asking me about stuff, you know, I didn't know." She goes, "Oh, I know, because I told her to ask about your personal life." And then she said, "And you're fired." She said, "Not because you got problems. All of us have problems," she told me. "But Danny," she said, "because you told me you were ready, and now I found out that you're not."
Wow.
So then she said, "So I'm going to give you this piece of advice, and you better keep it the rest of your life. If you're not ready for people to talk about you, you're not ready for success." And she said, "Bye." Just like that. Yeah. So all this bravado and all this stuff I thought I had, and no, it wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. So I had to go back and learn the life of so many people who wanted to be relevant. Look at me. They do the social media stuff, all these things. And I had to learn not to be relevant, because relevance means that you believe no one's seeing you. I had to be reinvented. So I had to reinvent who I was. And I had to be comfortable with being me. And there was a lady on a plane, and I somehow or another, I just happened to be next to her, and I don't know why, I just felt this reason of just talking about my life and stuff, and she just heard me. But it was something that she said that helped me to kind of move forward. She said, "When you own it, nobody owns you." And that made me take a hard look at the life that I had then. Never did drugs or alcohol stuff, but I really wasn't a great dad. I didn't come from a great background. a lot of times when I go home to Cincinnati, I'll go back and remember looking at the fire escape, but that fire escape used to be our refrigerator, because we didn't have one. I knew, ironically, I've always had 2 cars, but I know why, because I never really had a good one as a kid. I had to stop buying so much stuff in the refrigerator because I felt like I always had to have food, and I had to say, dude, stop. You don't have to do this no more. But it was because of how we grew up. I had to learn to be okay with where I was, and that was hard for me. So people, they see the glory of all of these war and all these things, and it's so good, and it means a lot to me. But humility is what's kept me here, because I remembered what it was like when I had nothing, which is why it's so important to help other people.
Like you said, when you got to reinvent yourself, right? You have to kind of change the image that you're in, and I'm fortunate enough right now, I'm in the middle of my dreams coming true, and I'm very aware of it, and it's awesome. But I have to sit with my therapist every week to really kind of check myself on certain things, or remind myself, I do deserve this. I don't have to live with that scarcity mentality. I don't have to second guess if I deserve it, because I did the work to get here. I got sober 2 years ago. I figured out who was in my circle. I'm fortunate enough to have an amazing team around me who all believe in me. But that all happened because I had to reinvent myself. I had to learn who I was outside of the drugs, the alcohol, the nightlife scene, and figure out who I was. And now I'm okay with sharing all the things that I thought were a hindrance that people would make fun of me for or not accept me for. And come to find out, some of those things are the best parts of my personality that I didn't think people would like, but the people that are around me and now work with me, that's the thing they love the most.
One of the things I learned, Mike and Danny, is that whoever's here, supposed to be here. Mm-hmm. And during your ascension, after you've received, after beginning to find yourself and you connecting the dots and figuring out, like I said, who's in your corner and who's in your business and who really is cheering for you and who isn't. I remember during the Hall of Fame, I remember sitting, getting on the stage, going in my mind, wow, this person should be here. I wish this person was here. And then I thought to myself, no, whoever's here, supposed to be here. I got to be okay with that. And the hardest thing was being uncomfortable enough to be okay with who was around me, even when I felt as though others were supposed to be here. Mm-hmm. So I had to learn to be okay with who wasn't, because by letting go of those people who weren't here, it gave me an opportunity now to bring in the people who were supposed to be here and who wanted to be.
Yeah.
And that means more than everything else.
Yeah, you can't force your path. Like we all have like this path set out, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. And like for me, I learned the hard way that the universe is just gonna throw things at you and you just gotta go with the flow.
Yeah.
And you can make bad decisions, you can make good decisions, but at the end of the day, your path is unknown to you. You just have to, like you said, you have to realize like the things that are meant to be and like who's supposed to be there. And you can't will anything into existence. You can manifest things.
Yes.
Right. But your path is something that you have no control of.
I'm always afraid. A lot of times I'm always scared of what would happen if I didn't do it. That's what's helped me to be better. Because a lot of times we will talk ourselves out of what we think we can't do or what we shouldn't be. But what I've learned is that I've been talking myself for a long time out of what would happen if I did it. But then I started learning, well, what would happen if I didn't do it? That's what I felt was going to make the difference for me.
The regret.
I had to figure out what was going to happen if I didn't, and recognize that it was okay to fail, because the truth of the matter is I'm failing all the time. But in my mind, I had to figure out what was the next move for the failure. If I look back, I was telling my grandson the other day, he's like, Grandpa, I'm only 7 years old, but I know a lot. Little boy, I got shoes big or longer, older than you. Sit your butt down somewhere. But I had to learn, these things. And I had to be okay. One of the things I had to learn was in our closets, like I got all these clothes. And then what I did a couple of years ago, I turned all the hangers backwards. And then I said, I won't do this again until next January. And all the clothes that are still hung this way are gone, because that means I didn't wear them for an entire year. And then once I did that, I got rid of a whole bunch of things, and I said, well, damn, my closet like I don't have nothing in it. But what I did was it taught me something about life. I made room for the new. And that's what that whole closet scenario, which, by the way, if it wasn't for Timu, I'd probably have a whole lot more damn room too. But I digress. That's another thing. But the truth is that, but it helped me, because then I realized I've been holding on to the past.
Yes.
You know, that's what I was doing. I was holding on. I need this. I need this. So when I turned the hangers backwards, I went, now I'm going to see how bad I need it. Because if the hangers are still the same way I left them last year, I didn't need you for a whole year. Then I got rid of it to make room for the new.
That's awesome.
I still have a hard time, like, when you were talking about your childhood, like, I grew up, you know, the stuff that we had is all we had. And I have such a hard time, and this comes from, like, my parents, like, we're not hoarders, but I have, like, sentimental value for insignificant items of clothing, like, that I've had. I'm like, maybe one day I'll wear it, but it's just starts stacking up. And then I feel bad, like, if I get rid of it, I feel bad. I never wore the shirt.
But yet,
you know
at the
I mean?
same token, you'll buy the new things that brings you into part of your new life. I was seeing this girl, and I had a long ponytail, and she said, Tyrone, how long have you had that ponytail? And I said, I've had it for about 10 years. She said, that's interesting. She said, that means you're holding on to a part of your life.
Yeah.
When you're ready to let that part of your life go, you'll cut it off. And I'm telling you, Danny and Mike, cut it off right then.
Wow.
Right then, because it was true. And what we're holding on to is what we wish we were going to be. It's like one of the questions when you were asking about where do you go, like when you're thinking of parts of what music or what is it that you think of. I can always, one of the reasons why music is so important to us is because it takes us back to a good or a bad time in our life. When we're feeling bad, we want to play the bad record. When we're feeling good, we want to play the good record.
Yes.
When we want to feel inspired, we remember a song that inspired us.
Yes.
You know? And that's the same way we are with everything. It's the same. And, you know, I remember at the lowest part of my life, I was always a big Rocky fan.
Oh,
and
me
I
too.
remember,
My favorite.
but that inspirational speech he gave was probably, and I went with this girl, she said, why are you crying? And I knew why, but I didn't feel comfortable telling her. But I knew, particularly when he said, you grew up all good and wonderful, time came on. He said, it wasn't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
That's how winning is done, baby.
And I started crying.
That's my
Yeah, but you get it. But when she said, and I remember the part when he said, now if you know what you're worth, go out and get what you're worth. But you got to be willing to take the hits.
The world doesn't owe you nothing.
Nothing. And I don't know why, man, Danny, I
got chills.
I was crying when I was like, the girl said, you all right? I went, yeah, I'm okay. But you know what? It was because he was speaking to me at the lowest point of my life.
Yes.
But it wasn't so much what he said. It was what the son said to him. Doesn't it bother you that you going out here making a mockery out of yourself, and I'm gonna be included in that, you know?
Yeah.
And it just, the whole thing connected.
Yes.
And a lot of times there's things we see, do, and say that connects the dots to who we are in our lives, and that's what's so important.
That's amazing.
I think it's awesome when like I'm fortunate that I've gotten to this point where I can look back and connect all the dots and see why the failures had to happen. Why, like, you talk a lot about letting things go and certain like songs and stuff. I have people. So there's certain people I go to when I'm having great times, certain people I go to when I'm having awful times, certain people I go to when I need advice. And it's about letting some of those people go too. Whereas, like, you know, I love the concept of like the day one and the day two, because I feel like I got to bring everybody along with me.
But everybody is not supposed to go with you. And what you have to learn is, if you looking, and what I had to learn, Smokey Robinson, when he says, Tyrone, you nervous? He said, thousands of people out here watching you. I went, do you think I need you? I tell Smokey, you have to say that?
Hold on, let's back it up. You were hanging out with Smokey Robinson?
So a lot of times I do these R&B tours with a lot of the old school people a lot.
Yeah.
So I came out on the stage, and he came out, he said, Tyrone, all these people gonna be looking at you, and I was like, "Smoke, don't do that. I'm nervous." And he said, "Look out there." He says, "What's the first thing you see?" The place was empty. I went, "The exit sign. Start with the exit sign." He said, "You ain't gotta look at the whole crowd." He said, "I'm nervous too." He said, "Start with the exit sign. Then when your nerves come, start looking down." And it told me something, but it also told me the story about my life, because in an auditorium, it's the same way with the people that are in your life. Some will be in the front row. Some will be in the balcony. some will be going in the exits. You got to be okay shuffling these people around because everybody's not supposed to be in the front row of your life. I had to learn these things. Sometimes you got to lose it all to gain what you need. And for a long time, I'm constantly believing, why does this person, Danny, not see me? They don't see what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
They don't want what I want. So it's not fair for me to believe that everybody sees me for what I am. So I had to be okay with that. Some people aren't meant to go on the journey with you. Part of the journey is the end. And you got to be okay with letting the end go. Because I got to make room for the new part of the journey, no matter what it is.
Like I said, what's the saying? Most people will claim like that they don't know you until you're winning, and then they want to say they were there for the whole ride.
Or there are people that have known me for years, and they wasn't there to watch me win. They were there just in case I did. And I had to be okay. And they would say, some would go, you think you're something now. I remember you when you were nothing. When in essence, I never believed that I was anything more than they were.
Right.
The only difference between the two of us is that I was just willing to do what a lot of people wouldn't. So that's why a lot of times the I don't even call myself a star, and then like I just say a public figure. Just it doesn't mean anything if you don't have a sense of humility with you.
Absolutely.
So I've watched people that I've been around, and I've been around some of the biggest stars in the world. And there are pieces that I take from some of them that I go, I like the way they did this. Make sure I don't do that. I remember once I was in a room with a very famous star. I won't mention because we're good friends.
Yeah.
And I remember him walking around the table, and he said, "Hi, I'm so-and-so. What's your name?" His humility of everybody knowing who he was, but him getting up, walking throughout the entire table, saying, "Hi, I'm so-and-so. What's your name?" I mean, it was, in my mind, it made me go, okay, I can do that. There were little things that I saw along the way with people. When I saw Oprah Winfrey show years ago when I was at the bottom of my life, I remember she had John Travolta on. And I remember John Travolta talking about different parts of his life. And at the end, Oprah said, "John, thanks for coming on. You're one of those rare qualities that you make people feel good about themselves when they're with you." And he started crying. And then I was like, yeah, I could do that. Like, I was just trying to find something to hold on to for me. I can do that. Didn't have much, but I can do that. So as we go along in our journey of our lives, when we meet people, I try to find something that I can hold on to that's going to make me better. It's the little things. And that's how I got here. So the accolades are great, but they don't mean anything if they don't connect the dots of, I'm not the awards, I'm not the Hall of Fame, I'm not the Hollywood African prestige, I'm not, breaking the records, and all these things are great. I'm not that guy unless you see this guy. That's what I want you to see. And once people learn to see that, then I got better at being a better man. That's what I was trying to be, learning how to be a better man.
And I feel like a lot of people, like, we lack so much empathy nowadays. Is like being a better like, we're on this planet to enjoy and leave it a better place than what you found it. And you do that by being the best version of yourself and being the best human. I think so many people have lost touch with that because, like you said, a lot of people are just out there chasing accolades, and then when they achieve it, it's like, wait a minute, I'm still miserable. I thought this was supposed to make me happy, and it's like, you're right, it doesn't. You got to fall in love with being who you are first, and then all of that is just the cherry on top, the added bonus, the sprinkles.
It's a temporary thing for all of us. The truth is that we see the shiny object and we think the shiny object is what we want. But in order to get to the shiny object, I remember, like, after my cancer, the trainer said, "You want to look like him?" I went, "Yeah, I want to look better like that." He goes, "You got to do what he does." And I got it. If I want to be like some of the people that I've been around, I got to do what they do. And you got to be okay with being, the biggest word that I learned was uncomfortable. Because uncomfortable is the thing that makes us move. If I had I remember I used to teach a parenting class years ago. I remember telling them, and that was when their children were incarcerated, and the prerequisite was that they needed to take this 10-week parenting class course. And I remember telling them, imagine if you leave out of here and you've got, a flat tire and it's raining and you've got no money. You can be mad and bent out of shape all you want, but until you recognize that you got to change the tire, the car is not moving. And that's kind of the same way I felt about my life, because my life wasn't all that great. So I don't want to pretend now that, the sunshine and rainbows is all great. I got, when you get to where we go, no matter what we do, Danny, it's going to take, we got to work twice as hard to stay there.
Yeah.
The attitude determines the altitude, right? That's how I look at it.
Right.
So that's how I got here.
But in order to enjoy the sunshine and the rainbows, you got to learn how to dance in the rain.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And you got to be okay with that. Every day is not going to be my greatest. And there are times when I'm thinking, okay, am I going to really be ready for the next phase? When I got on Sirius XM, I remember once that happened, the guy said, okay, people are they know who you are, but now they're going to hear you, and now they're going to see you in a different light, and it's true. And that's the reason why I don't go in my inbox. By the way, for all of you who are sending me information, I ain't clicking nothing on Instagram, just saying. Thank you, Sophia. I'm just saying, my brother. Not doing it. Not clicking it.
I love that you say that you have to be uncomfortable. Like, people don't realize that, in those uncomfortable situations and facing your fears, it forces you to figure things out.
Danny,
and you learn from it, right?
It was hard, Danny. I'm gonna be real with you, and I think the uncomfortable is being in your truth, and the person who knows the truth the most is you, and you don't want to say it. But I gotta be uncomfortable being okay with it. If I wasn't a good dad, I just had to learn to own it. If I wasn't a great warehouse person, I had to learn how to own it. If I wasn't great at changing tires or being a good husband or a boy, I just had to be okay with it. I had to be uncomfortable just saying my truth. And that, for all of us, is the hardest thing.
Yeah.
But I learned that if I was able to say it and be real with myself, then it was the beginning of the end of the problem, because then I knew where to go, because I could admit it to me. Then life started changing. That's what I learned.
I think where a lot of people struggle with that is you're admitting it to yourself, but then when you admit it to other people, and then they have a certain way of viewing it and saying it, and then you're like, oh, well, I don't want to upset this person, or I don't want this person to think differently than me, or this person might have something to say, or even when your videos went viral the other day, and the amount of people that started getting really some negative comments, and you had to turn it off. And I know you don't like social media and you don't like being out there like that. So it's you had to be okay with being uncomfortable with all those negative comments, and then being like, you know what, I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was tough. I did a video, it's a PSA about disability and wanting to be in the room where the decisions are made for disabled people. And it was I was part of a campaign, and it went ultra viral. And of course, at first it was all the positive comments from friends and people who follow that content, and then it was the trolls came in with their hateful comments about disability, and it was driving me crazy at first. I'm deleting, unblocking people, and then after a while, I'm like, you know what? This is a never-ending battle that I'm not going to win. They're actually beating me now because I fell into their trap.
You've allowed.
Fell into their trap.
Right.
So I was like, you know what? It's going to be out in the world. They're actually helping. All the comments that they have just pushes the video further out. So I'm like, go ahead, you can do what you want to do, and I'm gonna go about my life and just keep being me, spreading positivity, helping people, and not worry about that.
You have to. What happens is, one of the things that helped change me was not getting bent out of shape over what everybody else thought or said, because what I had to realize is I'm asking them to think like me. Well, they're not me.
Right.
So it's not fair for me to believe they're going to get what I get. They don't want what I want. So what I've learned is leave those, because ultimately I don't have to concern myself. These people don't want what we want. Everybody's not going to be for you. They're not going to be for you, Danny. So I don't get mad at people who don't see what you see. We try to figure out why, but it's not fair for us to think they think like us.
You can't expect you from somebody else.
That's what I'm saying. They're not like us.
But I do think, like, one thing that I do want to acknowledge that I think we look past so much, and like you said, it's like I had to be okay with looking past it and I don't worry about it. But the initial feeling was a frustration, upset, anger. You're allowed to feel that way. Right, you're a human being. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. You're living this human life. That's a human emotion to be upset or bothered by somebody saying negative things about you, because you don't want that. Nobody does. But it's being like understanding that, accepting it, and then moving past that. And I think like so many people, we don't acknowledge the fact that like, we're not saying just, oh, screw them, don't worry about it. It's like, no, you're allowed to be pissed off, but you can't carry that.
Right. It's not yours to own.
Yeah.
Now they got you.
Right, exactly.
You see what I mean? Now they got you. A lot of times when I'm doing the shows on television, I'm really careful that I want to spread sunshine and rainbows, but the truth of the matter is, wasn't all sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah.
And one of the ones in which I did, nameless, said his show was done, and they said, what about when this and this happened? Well, I don't really want to talk about that. Well, we have to talk about it in order for us to do this. And they said, well, I'll talk about it, but I only want Tyrone to do it. And I remember when they came to me about it, and I said, listen, I can't untruth your truth, but you can tell me how to spin it a little bit, I can do that. Sometimes people want to see your story, because what you're doing is, that person did it, you did, I can do it too. The whole time that in my life, I thought that these struggles were holding me back. They were really giving me the tools to become one of the best. So in my world, there was no more second chances and no more blaming others. For the problems that I had in my life, it was just going to have to be a new day. That's how I looked at it. And because my struggles eventually had to become my strength. For me, it's just me at home I'm just a normal guy.
Yeah.
I take out the elderly's trash in my street because I don't want, I was home during COVID and I went, wow, this lady's been taking out her trash like that? Oh my God! I told her, a few years ago, yo, you retired. I got this. From now on, I'm taking your trash out. But for me, it's simplicity.
Yes.
And I don't. A lot of times, when you are in a different level of your dream, and when people see that, they think you're invincible, or they think that you're something totally different. Not a single thing's changed.
Yes.
Not a single thing's changed.
Yeah. People see, especially on social media now, they see that you're living the high life. But I'm like, man, I'm at home, same as you, sleeping in bed, closing my eyes, using the toilet.
I still cry in the shower from time to time, man.
I'm buying Arco gas. I'm buying Arco gas
Exactly.
like everybody else. I'm looking for the same cheapest gas.
Yeah.
Driving around, trying to look for gas 10 cents less than the place I went to.
And I try to tell people, I'm like, listen, I do post my wins on social media. I don't show you the struggles, just because I don't choose to share that on social media, but I will tell you about it in person. I will tell you how I struggle and like I worry and
But that's the point of the show. That's the point of A Mind's Pursuit. It's like, let's humanize that so we do share it. Because by only sharing the wins and showing the highlight reels, depression is climbing in this country like crazy. In this country is unaliving, because I can't say that term actually. Unaliving is climbing like crazy. And it's because so many people are doing the comparison of social media. Kids at the age of 9, 10 years old now are starting to unalive themselves because of the fact that they're being bullied on the internet, but then as we're growing up, we're also comparing ourselves to other people. Right. And comparison is the death of the artist. So it's like that, if we're more open about that, and it's like, oh, okay, cool, awesome to see your highlights, but I see all the struggles you're going through and you still got there. That's what we're missing. That's what the inspiration needs to be. And that's a big reason why we started this whole concept, the whole show, the nonprofit foundation, and everything we do among this ecosystem of A Mind's Pursuit is to spread that and make mental health awareness change the stigma regarding mental health and raise mental health awareness.
And I think that's so important because I think it's such a cliche, but it's true. It's okay to not be okay. As dumb as it sounds, or simplistic as it sounds,
Says it all the time.
It's okay to struggle. It's okay to not be okay.
It's major.
Yeah.
It's okay. You don't have to always be that way. For me, like, when I'm out with people, I know that I've learned the first time they meet you has to be the best time they meet you.
Yeah.
Because you've seen so many times when they meet them in a bad place and something happens, go, that dude was A.O. because he treated, and I've learned, like, for meeting me, I have to make it my best. And I learned that from somebody because that way when they see you at your worst, they'll recognize that you're just a human being no different than they are.
Absolutely.
And I think that's so important. I don't care whether you're a public figure or if you're a janitor. Everybody deserves respect.
Yes.
Say hello. Be kind. At a place where I'm at, where I work at, I always say your problems are beyond the gate. You don't have no problems in here. It's okay to just be you. Yeah. We're not doing the putting your thumb on everybody. Things have to be. It's just better. You need a safe spot, even if it's your job. Sometimes our job is the only thing that makes us safe.
Yeah,
it gives us a time to just get away from the hustle and bustle and the real life situations that I got to deal with. At least for 8 hours a day, you don't have to deal with it here. That's what I'm.
In our situation, we trauma bond.
Yeah,
because in nightlife, we're all dealing with the most effed up times, and because we went through that together, it's like we have a special bond because of that.
Right. But you learn that though, right? You learn somebody who respects and appreciates you for being you. Whatever it's trauma bond or not, ultimately it's somebody who can recognize that it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah, it's okay to struggle, and it's even more okay to talk about it.
Yes. Absolutely.
And that's what
which is very important.
Yeah.
Which is very important.
And like you said, like any sunshines and rainbows, and whether you're a celebrity or a janitor, you're both dealing with the same thing. Everybody has a stress, and I hate that we like try to compare stress. It's like
ain't no such thing. It's all stress.
Yeah.
If I'm stressed, worried about whether I'm gonna pay the bills or whether it doesn't matter what type of stress. It's still a stress.
Yes.
It's still the same. It doesn't mean, well, that's not a problem. It's a problem to that person. Yeah. It doesn't have to be the same problem that you can deal with.
But the problem to that person, that's still really real.
Absolutely.
And you can't take away from that.
Absolutely.
And it's no matter what status you're at. You could be the richest person in the world, but you might have health problems. So
that's right.
Somebody has their issues and stresses, and you can't compare yours. That's when people see me and they'll say, my foot hurts, but I can't complain because of your situation. I'm like, no, your pain is your pain. That's what I can't compare what I'm going through to you. You can't do that. Like, realize that your pain is worth, talking about. It's valid, right? It's valid. And people are like, I never thought about it. I'm like, yeah, this is your struggle. Like, you have to go through this. Like, I recognize, like, yeah, that what I went through is painful and it's crazy, but like what you're going through is your challenge right now and your struggle.
While there are many struggles in which we've all had that have nothing to do with us under circumstances, ultimately, I can attribute most of my wins and my losses with two words: yes or no. No matter how I look at it.
Yeah.
Did I go this way when I should have went that way? Yes. Did I go do something wrong here? No. It's just ultimately, those are the two words that really define a lot of our life.
Absolutely.
Our decisions.
Yeah.
And those that are, you got to own what we do and own what we should have done and own what we didn't do, and those things that are out of your control, you're going to have to be okay with that too.
That's right.
That's how I look at it.
Tyrone, obviously we've talked a lot of amazing things when it comes to mental health, the mental health space, and you've grown so much in it. What's some advice that you would give to somebody that is struggling now to help them with their mental health and get through it, whether it's some music or something you learned?
If you are struggling now, be okay first admitting that you're struggling to begin with. Because to be perfectly honest, that's usually the beginning of the end of the problem. Because now that you know what the problem is, you can now be okay and feel free to get help. And those people that are in your life who know that and see this change and struggle with you will do their best to somehow or another try to help you to be better. You can be okay with people around you. As you find yourself in a mental struggle of some sort, you're going to find some people disappearing. And some of those people are disappearing not because they don't want to help you. It may very well be because they're struggling too. And maybe they're thinking, well, you may see something in me that I'm seeing in you. And you may be triggering them, unknowing to you. Don't be bent out of shape over those people who really don't understand a lot of times the things in which you're going through. Be okay with not being okay, but more importantly, it's okay to seek help. So many different television shows that I've seen recently will now say at the end of a show, if you're struggling with mental health, if you need some help, call this number. It's okay. In other words, for a long time, we wouldn't make it socially acceptable. Somehow or another, particularly for African Americans, suck it up. Don't say nothing. Don't do anything. And for a lot of us, we feel like if we say something, we're weak. The truth of the matter is I had to learn that I was weak if I didn't say anything. One of the things that many people don't know that I seldom talk about, and I'm going to share this here, where I know that it may be out there. On September the 2nd, 1989, 15 minutes after I got married, I got a phone call, and my mother was murdered on my wedding day. Imagine the emotions after being married and going through this. I had to go home 2 days after I got married, bury my mother. And after 6 years, I was on a relentless pursuit to find the man who murdered my mother. And they found him. And he went to jail for almost 25 years. And every time he came up for parole, I'd fly home. It was always me. And I struggled for a long time thinking that my siblings didn't care. But I had to stop doing that. Maybe they just couldn't handle it. And I remember on my mom's anniversary, right in the beginning of COVID, September 2nd, 2020, I remember writing in my journal, and I got a phone call from a gentleman in Cincinnati, and he was a victim advocate, and he said, "Did you know that they're about to let the man out of prison who murdered your mother?" And I said, "No. I had no idea." And they gave me this opportunity to block him from coming out, and I had to fly home not once, not twice, but 3 different times during COVID to make sure this man stayed in prison. My mental capacity, and I remember talking to somebody in my family, a family member, and I remember telling them what was going on, and they said, "Oh, I thought he was just going to be in prison for life," not knowing that 17 times I went home to make sure that this man stayed in prison. Not knowing the day of his sentencing, I didn't have enough money to go from Columbus because I couldn't afford a ticket to Cincinnati. So I had to hitchhike home at 2:30 in the morning to make sure I was there at his sentencing. This struggle was probably one of the hardest things I had ever dealt with in my life. And they let him out. And he passed away recently. I know that in my head, my mother didn't get a chance to see this part of my life. As I was struggling to be not only just a father, but a man. And it was the first time in my life I finished something. I had quit school at 17, and I remember seeing this commercial on TV, and it talked about people graduating. And I remember saying, I didn't graduate. And I remember my mother with 4 kids going to high school when we were kids, and all of my siblings graduated except me. So I had to go back, and I had to go back to do the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. I did all 4 years. I could have done, I remember the teacher telling me, this was in the midst of me ascending in television and all this stuff, and the kids were there, they wanted to take pictures. And I remember the teacher saying, Tyrone, why don't you just get a GED so you don't have to worry about these people bothering you? And I remember saying, I've taken shortcuts my entire life. I need to be able to finish something. I need to know. So my mom, so she can, like, all her kids graduated, because they all graduated and went to college, I didn't. And I remember telling my uncle, my mother's brother, and my sister, I remember telling my uncle, if you come out here, he never taken a plane his entire life, I won't even look at my diploma. You representing your sister, I'm gonna let you see it first. And he came. And so did my sister. Neither had been on a plane before, but they were there. I say this with such appreciation for people who struggle with mental health. We don't know what anybody's going through. A lot of times they see glory, but they don't know the story. Behind everybody's success or failure is a story that you know nothing about. And in my head, I always say that's somebody's son, that's somebody's daughter, that's somebody's love, that's somebody's friend. Like, you don't know what people go through. People beyond what they see of me, of this part, that's a part they didn't know. And I remember when I went into the Hall of Fame, I remember telling Casey Kasem's daughter, who inducted me in the Hall of Fame along with her dad, that all I had to hold on to that made me feel like I was gonna be somebody was her dad. I didn't know that at first. I didn't know, but I realized how important that was to me. So for all of the people out here who struggle with mental health or not sure where their direction or purpose is, direct yourself to believing that you can overcome anything and that you'll make it, but you got to believe you deserve it, that your struggle will eventually become your strength. And sometimes our struggles is the one thing that people in the world will fall in love with, because nobody ever wants to hear the man or the person who has everything. People want to hear about the person who's endured some sense of pain, just like all of us, and turn their struggles into a gift, you know. Yeah. And I had to learn that legends, when somebody called me a legend a few weeks ago, and I was like, no. But whatever I am, whatever we are all what we are based on the valley, you know, of our struggles. So I say to everybody out there, please, if you are in need of any kind of help of any sort, say something. Say something so people can help you. I needed help. Didn't say anything. Quiet battle. But I overcame.
Nobody has to suffer alone.
Nobody does.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Thank you. Apologize.
No,
No,
what are you
please.
apologizing for?
That was wonderful.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay.
Thank you for sharing that. I didn't congratulate you on beating colon cancer as well. I know that's a very fatal disease, right?
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. That really touched my heart. Hopefully yours too, but you know.
And a lot of times people see the Hollywood part, but I'm like everybody else. I'm no different. We all have our struggles and our pain, and it's so important of being able to give. What's my legacy? What am I going to do to be a good man? I can do that, and I can look back and hopefully help somebody else to make their dreams come true too. That's how I look at it.
Beautiful.
Love it.
I think the biggest thing that I've come across about people with mental health is admitting that you have a problem to begin with. I think that's probably the one thing that we a lot of times are all in denial of, or we're afraid to speak it. I think that's one of the things that's the biggest issue, that it's got to be okay for you to say, I got a problem. And I think, but once people recognize they do, then you'll be able to breathe. It's hard to breathe when you know that there's something wrong and you say nothing. Nothing. What's wrong? Nothing. What's going on? I can see the difference. Nothing. We're scared. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what I learned, particularly with people who had, illnesses, and they struggle with it, or they know that it's been in their family and they're scared to admit something because they're scared if they do, I'm going to be like this person. You're not going to be like that person. You're going to always be you. But you just have to be okay being the you that you are to get the help that you need. Mm-hmm. That's what I've always, and that's what I see now.
Yeah. So you dropped so many things to take away. Like I can't wait to listen back to this, because there's so many, just like the phrase that you talk about. But let's talk about like the lighthearted stuff of like music. You're a historian. Like, what are some of your favorite R&B tracks, or what are some of your favorite pop? Like, what's something you could look back on in your R&B historian lifetime and be like, yo, that's the reason why I do music. That's the reason why
when I look at the music part, like when my mom, every morning before she went to work in the early 70s, she would play the Stylistics, like the Stop, Look, Listen, that whole album. And then I went on tour with them. Wow. I was like, oh, Mom, this was, my mother played this album all the time. But it was also the history of what I learned of R&B that helped me a great deal. When I wrote my book, and the book went to #1 for 8 weeks on Amazon. And then I started getting the phone calls from the artist. I'll tell you who this artist was later. They said, why ain't in your book? I said, what you? He said, I heard you talking about my song. White people like it. Black people like it. I was like, don't forget the Asian people. Yeah, Chinese people like it too. But it's interesting because, but the music had decided to, define me, what you heard from your mom. And of course, when I listened to Casey Kasem, that defined me as well. But music is so important because every song that you hear tells you about a particular time of your life. Mm-hmm. You can remember where you were when you heard it. You can remember how you were feeling. You can remember whether you was with some girl or some guy. Wanted to throw Sophia in the mix, make sure she was there. Or maybe, I don't know. Let me shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me shut up with that one. I'll cause a problem there.
This is for the nighttime show.
Yeah,
Leave it
exactly.
for the after hours.
The uncut version.
Yeah.
Covering all tracks, my friend. That's what
right.
I'm doing. But what was interesting is what I learned about R&B. The number one artist in the 1960s was James Brown.
Oh, I love James Brown.
The number one artist in the 1970s was James Brown. Was a total shock that he was the number one artist in the 60s and the 70s.
Yeah.
He was the number one. The number one female artist in the 60s, in the 70s, and in the 80s was Aretha Franklin. Bigger than Whitney Houston. Bigger than any Tina Turner. Bigger. She was the number one artist in the decade, female artist in the decade of the 80s. These are the things that I learned. And what's good about being an R&B historian is that a lot of times the artists will come to me and ask me questions about things. Tyrone, will you do my bio? There was one bio they wanted me to do. Once again, that's for the night version.
Yeah.
And I interviewed about the artist who had passed away, and their family member wanted to know what I knew about the person that they wanted to have done. And I said, well, the one thing that they did was they overexposed themselves. And they said, well, what do you mean? Well, what happened was they were doing great, but then when somebody else kind of swaggerjacked them, then they wanted, instead of trying to reinvent themselves, then they wanted to be relevant, and they did a whole bunch of albums. When they stopped doing all the albums and then reinvented themselves, then they had a number one record. And that person said, that's okay. We want somebody else to do it. I said, I can find you somebody who can lie for you. I can do that. But, I've always just tell the truth. The charts don't lie. There's no way to get around it. So I've learned a lot about music then. There, number one, the first platinum single in history was Johnny Taylor, Disco Lady. The song Kiss and Say Goodbye by the Manhattans was Glenn Campbell's song, but he didn't want it. So he gave it to the Manhattans. They had the second platinum single. The Eagles and Michael Jackson's album Thriller were back and forth going number one against each other for years. And the Eagles eventually, Eagles' greatest hits, beat out Michael Jackson now, but 32 times platinum right now.
Wow.
So it's amazing how music changes.
Yeah.
That's the thing about me that I learned. But I learned that from listening to Casey Kasem.
Yes.
And one day I was out at an Oscar event, and this guy walked by, and I said, wait a second. I said, you used to have a Monopoly set. I said it had sterling silver houses and real gold hotels, and it cost you about $5,000. And he walked away. He said, what? How did you know that? And I said, Casey Kasem. He told me. Casey Kasem. He told me. So he did. He was like, I said, now can I get a picture?
Yes.
Gave me a picture.
Tyrone, this might be a random question, but we were listening to Backstreet Boys before you got here.
That's my group.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's my group
I told
right there.
Mikey if he
I saw him at Stagecoach this year. I was like, man, this is awesome.
Oh.
Mikey was like,
Oh, my God.
Tyrone ain't gonna be into that. I'm like, I promise you he will.
Listen to me. Like, I still play I'll Never Break Your Heart. I still, I play, man, dude, that's my group.
See that? I was thinking in my head, I'm like, if he's a historian of music, like,
oh no,
Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, they all
NSYNC,
came from
all
like
that.
Jodeci, Boys
all
to Men.
that.
Because of those groups came about. So if you like Boys to Men, you would have loved.
Backstreet Boys was the
iteration,
group,
right? Thank you.
Oh yeah, they were the
If
group.
Danny could do his life over, he would be the lead singer. It would have been Danny Gomez instead of Justin Timberlake.
Oh yeah.
He could have did his
I
life.
started
I was just listening to Justin Timberlake.
Yes.
Just went on my way in there. I Want You Back.
Yes.
How many times did a brother try to do them moves?
You know what?
I was trying, man.
Hey, I was in a
trying
boy
so
band in
hard.
high school. Next Generation was the name of our group. We could dance. We could all dance. I could sing a little bit, but
Man, the Backstreet Boys was, and then I had kids, so, I had to listen, and I remember my son saying, when I was playing I'll Never Break Your Heart, she said, Dad, I'd rather die than to live without you. We don't need to be playing that. Yo, man.
You don't
stick
know.
to Barney,
It's
man.
deep.
You stick to Barney, man.
Yes.
You'll be messing up mine. But I play those songs.
You remember when Gone, the song "Gone" by NSYNC
yeah,
came
by
out?
NSYNC. Oh,
People
yeah.
didn't know it was a. They were like, "Those white boys are singing that song," because I was in New Orleans when that came out, and like people were blaring that, and when they found out it was NSYNC, they were like, "Oh, I can't listen to that."
I know.
You know what I'm saying?
No. I mean, the boy bands, not just for pop, but for R&B. That was the last of any R&B groups. Were in the 90s.
Yeah.
In the 2000s, there has not been an a major R&B group since the early 2000s.
Wow.
There are no major groups, which is the reason why old school groups are still around.
Still around.
But what's happened, because I do the Soul Train cruise every year, but what happens is there's maybe one or two left. So say Delphonics featuring this guy.
Yeah.
Because that guy's the only one left.
Wow.
Ted, I'm just playing. Just letting you know. I don't just in case.
What up, Ted?
I went to there was a festival with like all the I forgot what the name of the Fools in Love it was called, and they had the Temptations. And there was one.
I announced. I was on stage then.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah, I was on one of the stages.
Yeah,
but it was only one left. Otis.
I was with Mr. David Solomon.
Yeah.
We sat right in front of everybody else. Yeah, he was the only one left.
Yeah.
But every single person could sing every single word.
Yep.
Like I know every word of the Temptations.
Yep.
From Motown back in the day. I know every word of like all the Billy Joel songs. So like that was my parents' things. But like we came together and just like Jersey Boys. Love that movie. Play.
Oh yeah.
Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons.
Oh yeah.
Every
Love
single
them.
word. To
And
it.
I mean, not only that. I mean, Barry Gibb wrote the last #1 song for Frankie Valli with Grease. I mean, that was. Yeah, I mean, I get Casey Kasem too, damn. But I was like, yeah, but I mean, he wrote the song. And what people don't know is that, particularly in the 70s, the RSO Records, who had the Bee Gees, Olivia Newton-John, John Travolta, Samantha Sang, Yvonne Elliman, 30 of 33 weeks, RSO Records held the #1 spot. That's how big they were, and including Andy Gibb, which, by the way, had the #1 song of the year in '77 and '78. Had both of them. Wow. I Just Want to Be Everything and Shadow Dancer. Damn. So yeah, that was
great songs.
It was big. Yeah. I got a trivia question a couple of weeks ago from somebody. They said, and it was from a famous artist. He said, I just need to know if this is true. He said, you know this stuff, man. He said, you just know this stuff. I just need to know who was the first #1, who was the first group to hit #1 with the same song 3 times. And I said, you're going to be mad. Because he was trying to think it was his group. I was like, it was Chic and LaFreak. 3 times the same song went to #1 3 times.
Wow.
Damn.
That's how big music was then in the 70s.
Wow.
It was huge. And it was the most important part of our life. You know, music was everything.
I mean, music still is. I think people don't like. It's not necessarily talked about as much, but like, yo, I can't do anything without music.
Oh yeah,
like, it's just, and like you said, like a certain song takes you back to a certain time, and a certain artist like just defines moments of your lives that the artist would never even think it would touch that person.
Yeah, very,
it's crazy.
very, very important, because not only does music tell us the sounds and the times of our life, it defines who we are as a human being. All of it does. If you heard something from your great grandmother who was playing this song and you heard it, that who it reminds you of. Your grandfather, he sung this one. Your mom did this one. The kids did this one. There's so many different definitions of music. In a special that I'm doing for a national magazine, the #1 artist in the 50s on the R&B charts was Fats Domino on the R&B charts.
Wow.
But the #2 artist in the 1950s on the R&B charts was Elvis Presley.
Yep.
He was big. So a lot of times people don't realize how important music, crossed over then. Remember, back in the day, they didn't even have, in the 60s, in the mid-60s, they cut out the R&B charts. And for black people, they was like, we're not doing this anymore. Wow. And then they brought it back in '68. And, they used to be called race music, is what it used to be called. And then they said, why don't we call it rhythm and blues? Why don't we just do that? And then they brought it back in '68. When I did the autobiography of James Brown, he was crossing over for a long time with I Feel Good, Papa's Got a Brand New Bag, and all of, so meaning that when you say you're crossing over to the pop charts, that means both whites and blacks are buying your music. When Martin Luther King passed away, he wrote the song, I'm Black and I'm Proud, and they warned him, don't do this song. Don't do it. So he did the song, and the song did cross over to reach the top 10 of the pop charts, but he never touched the pop charts again for 17 years until Sylvester Stallone begged him to do the song Living in America.
Living in America.
Told him to do that song, and he got him a Grammy.
Comes back to Rocky, man.
Comes back to
Rocky every time. I love that. Tyrone, man, this has been an amazing conversation. We love when conversations flow. Before I get you out of here, I got a really important question to ask you, and deep one. So, would you rather in your life have a world where there's no 90s R&B, or with every emotion you had to portray, you had to do it through a D'Angelo song? Which one would you pick?
We gotta have the 90s R&B. Am I right, Sophia?
Yes.
I mean, it'd be kind of funny though. Every time you had to express something, you had to do it through a D'Angelo song.
You got it.
So can I get butt naked? Get close in your face.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I love it, man.
Yeah. Sophia know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
I did have one question real quick.
Before we get out of here.
It's one of my least favorite questions is like when people ask you what's your favorite song? Or like, what's your favorite movie? I'm like,
you're about to ask me
what
his favorite song is?
No, but like, well, how do you feel about this question? Because for me, it's like, it depends what kind of mood I'm in.
Yes, I totally agree with you. I got a call from, of all people, Barry Manilow.
Okay.
Who said, would you be willing to do my autobiography? And I said, yes. He says, but you don't know nothing about my song. Everything about your songs. I was a big Barry Manilow fan. I had a TWA. That's commonly referred to as a teeny weeny afro. But I had one back then, my brothers. And I can tell you, I knew his music very, very well.
We need a picture of that.
Yes.
We need a picture of that.
Yeah, somebody
we need a picture. You got to find it before we
Yeah, in Hollywood, they had us do the, like they want you to autograph pictures and stuff. So they had a picture of me, Danny, and Mike. So for y'all, and they showed a picture of me in a Jerry curl. I was like, man, that ain't me, man. They were like, and the guy was really cool. He was like, oh, Mr. Dubois. He says, oh yeah, we got that from. I was like, man, that's my son, man. That ain't me. That's not me. I wasn't going out like that. Yeah. I mean, it looked good,
right,
but I wasn't signing no Jerry curl pictures. I just, it's good.
Man.
I cannot thank you all enough for allowing me to share your space with y'all for the pleasure of your time. It means more to me than you can ever imagine that you thought enough to have me here. I really, really, really appreciate it. Thank you for allowing me to just be me with all of you.
Oh, no, thank you for coming on.
Thank you,
sharing so much of your knowledge, man.
It was great.
Yeah.
We appreciate you. We appreciate all you out there watching. Thank you so much for tuning into the Chaos with our special guest today, Tyrone DuBose, R&B historian. I'm your host, Mikey Tillman, alongside
Danny J. Gomez.
Tyrone DuBose also do weddings, bar mitzvahs, quinceañera, Kwanzaa, whatever. It's all good.
He'll bring his Jerry curl too.
And a Jerry curl.
We'll catch you next time on the Chaos. Peace.